one of the suggestions in the readings and that got picked up in the forums is the notion that authentic human life, the best kind of human life, is ordinary. It's ordinary human life. Um, this is a pretty striking notion, and it goes very much counter to Western culture and kind of American, especially American ways of looking at the world, where, you know, um, even if you just look at our pop culture, American culture very much prizes heroism, celebrity, someone who stands out, a life less ordinary. I mean, literally, a life less ordinary. That kind of mentality is really prevalent in the way that the Western tradition and American culture in particular think about the best human life. And so, especially as we move towards, you know, more and more social media, more and more navel gazing, more and more people whose their existence seems to be defined by, you know, likes and followers and subscriptions and whatnot. There's something to be said for the kind of human life that simply follows a really, you know, normal pattern. Not young person shoots to celebrity and then crashes and burns and then recovers and not that, but instead a person becomes apprentice to a tradition, the Christian tradition, apprentice to a way of life that involves, you know, there's two basic tracks in the Christian tradition. That's marriage and family, with work and production, and then singleness, life of commitment to God and the service of God. Those are really the two basic tracks for human life that that the church has carved out over over the millennia. Um, and it's interesting that that might be, you know, the church's kind of both answer and defense against a culture that rejects that. You know, the culture more and more kind of looks for something like a bohemian lifestyle, you know, punk rock. I'm going to do it different. And one of the things that the church can do is can say, well, no, this really is what God sort of describes. If you want the life of unattachment, of detachment, especially from marriage and family, that's good, but it's to be characterized by service of the gospel and the mission of the church. And if you know, you do go back down the path of marriage and family, there's an expectation of, you know, productivity, providing resources, and training up the next generation of Christians. That's kind of what life is about. It's simple. And one of the things that entails is it kind of validates. It gives a certain measure of validity to the notion that the authentic human life is one that's periodically joyful and periodically full of grief, sadness. It's periodically happy. It's periodically you know, robust with provision, and then it's periodically there's times of deprivation and lack. There's a reason then that the marriage vow, you know, sickness, health, you know, whatever all the different polarities are in the classic marriage vow, but noting that life itself is, you know, it's this. There's a lot of that, and that's a good thing. It's interesting that the Christian tradition's chock full of mystics and regular theologians who acknowledge the depths of human sadness and loss, as well as the heights of ecstasy. There's such a wide range of emotive responses to human life that are found in the tradition and validated by the tradition. This is, you know, with St. John of the Cross, you get the real depths of loneliness and emptiness, and the recognition that there are times when, in our sense, we don't sense the presence of God deeply, and that's okay. That's part of it's part of life, and it's part of the way that we look forward to the expectation of the eschaton, when there's fullness, you know, without limit, without remainder. There's an important way in which the present can't have that, and that the authentic human life, the right kind of human life, acknowledges and experiences that. This is a tough sell, right? It's a hard sell, especially to the young, because What the culture promises is a life of endless up and up and up and up, a life of endless happiness, more and more bliss, more and more this, more and more that. Really, what Christians have traditionally reserved for the afterlife is something that the culture wants to promise now. And of course, the culture can't deliver, but that's what the culture promises. And one of the things that the church needs to do is point out the lie, and instead replace it with the sobering and maybe a little less glamorous, but certainly more fulfilling truth.